manifestation of CCism. By the dawns of the early light, by the smell of burnt oil, in the midst of selfish greed, run amok under the cloak of evangelical hypocrisy, I sigh and decry the hostility vented towards poor Latino immigrants, trying to find a place in the sun like those who have come before, legal and illegal. I ask, where is this country headed? Blame the weak, the poor, hate the Spanish speaker, the Muslim, the gay, the agnostic, the liberal, all but those who have set it all in motion. Who will be next? Delusion, the drink of money and power, blinds and deafens the senseless stupidity of bigotry foxed across the land of repeat and repeat until lies become truth. When will this country awaken from the stupor of veiled infestation? Let us say CC. Let us create, think, make the positive. Let art, literature, music, drama, and morality and value for humanity drown out cries of Iraq, senseless bombings in Israel and Palestine. Let us destroy the meaningless of present life, a revolt of Dada's revolt to CC, like twins sprung from the same vile seed, to manifest a new age of art and life. I went to Walt Whitman's house in Camden, New Jersey, and several years after I wrote this poem. It's called The Pilgrimage, in honor of Walt Whitman. On a pilgrimage likened to those who need to Santiago de Compostela, those who rock before the Wailing Wall, or those in a dervish daze circling Mecca, I stand before your bed and touch the wooden railing, smooth as porcelain by countless rubbings by manly hands. As if wanting to commune with you, I wait patiently for some sign to revive the first time I read Leaves of Grass and felt my spirit leap, sensing the brotherhood in your words, knowing that we had a commonality across decades. I look around and vaguely feel the calling of America, the brotherhood of muscle, valor, and independence, the need to be free and oneself among the masses, the celebration of the body electric. The common man, the mechanic, the captain of my life, rooted to the earth, a silver oak of determination, but a faithful willow of pliability. I sing to myself, calling the joy you felt among the men. You are with me, and I feel, and I am refreshed. Flowing with the river, ebbed by the sting of life, I quiver, undulating until I grasp the gossamer thread of my soul.
The first poem is by Frank Lima, who is a poet I befriended over the last year, and he died last October. And I never got to meet him, but we had a lot of correspondence and connection, and it's called The Hand. This was published in, I just printed this up before I got here, it was published in American Poetry Review. I think the first issue, if I looked at it correctly, it said Volume 1, Issue 1, so 1964. The hand is all heart. It hops around like a toad to prove its dexterity. It presses your pockets on cold winter days, and in its profound state, polishes an apple for you. Silently, it waits in the subways when it rains, and is more of a hand than ever. It emerges from your humid coat like a swollen hyena with rancorous juices to offer the young lady next to you a flat heart. Of course you get a slap and someone's boring hand dials the police, who arrive with fat hand. The hand requires few words. It howls, repels odors, and keeps the body of its lover from becoming slippery. A drop of water splashes in the crater of its palm, Merlin's pure lapis in the middle of the night. The lover's hand imagines itself a lover in the flabbiness of a perspiring torso, rolling in the wash of signs. Armless, the hand spanks and slides around the mass of the sexual object with giant fingers that appear like rubber slugs in the moonlight. This is a short poem of mine. It's a cut-up poem that I put together and was published the last year. Makes no sense at all, but I like it. Chemical Glam Gambit, it's called. Probably the thins. It's what the isn't a gun and fun, a when which amounts to mostly rock. Go rough that rock into a roll, a bulk, till you're slowly featureless, composed not of liquid or helium, just a fun water gambling baby, almost methane without a core.
I want to read a ghazal for you. I wrote it at the end of a course of transnational poetry, and we talked about ghazal as a form of poetry that has traveled to many countries and has penetrated many borders. And as a poet, I am also inspired by trees. So I think this ghazal is about both. It's called Tree by Tree. No matter where I go, I thrive line by line, like plain trees. I am ancient and deep, root by root, like baobab trees. I have plenty of uses, like 360. I am a heritage, seed by seed, like coconut trees. I am honorable, though some say a tree is a tree. I live honest and modest, bark by bark, like redwood trees. I beat the tallest species by some 500 feet, and I am healing leaf by leaf, like eucalyptus trees. Cherish me as much as al-Badawi in the West Bank. I am a symbol for peace, branch by branch, like olive trees. I enlighten you as Siddhartha. Come, live in my shade, then take me to your afterlife, twig by twig, like fig trees. No one has ever heard of my death, neither have you, for I live tall, mighty, proud, trunk by trunk, like sequoia trees. Write me like ancient Persians, or modern like Mariam. Read me, remember me, word by word, like evergreen trees.
The poems are untitled. Okay, so this reflects some of the math that I've known, that I say, but it's not. Well, okay, here we go. I feel so sorry for the insides of things. I imagine them sweating and cramping. I hear them trying to flex. I know from complex analysis that sometimes outsides determine the insides, and I think maybe the insides are tired of being determined. And most things are inside. Most things are encased. I am afraid most things are alive. I would like to go around rescuing all the insides. I would like to dig into everything and pull the insides outside. But there is not enough outside to go around. If I can't rescue them, maybe I can put them out of their misery. I know I can't shoot them, but I can try to squash them. Or I can go around injecting poison into them. But what kind of poison works for this form of life? This is called After Hours, and it reflects some of my beliefs and disbeliefs about education, how to educate, and it probably reflects the fact that two of my two youngest children homeschooled. It's called After Hours, and it comes from a dream that I had. In New York City lives an old woman in a wheelchair who, every midnight and on till 3 a.m., hangs out in the various schoolyards. She's poor but educated, and she loves education. She's just there, available to teach anybody who happens to come along and want to be taught. All the teenagers and young men go to her, they who would otherwise be out doing drugs or nothing. Nobody mugs her. They love and respect her, little kids too. Parents of kids who don't want to go to regular school take them to her non-regular school. She does this every night in as many schoolyards as she can. Meanwhile, back in Philly, well, you know how the buses run pretty late, but not all night? So there's this young man who, after hours, climbs aboard one of the buses. SEPTA leaves the key for him. They're happy he's doing this. He drives that bus around for those who have to get to work at 4 a.m. or who just like riding the bus at night. He's got a full bus, and as he drives, he tells us about the New York woman who runs the outdoor night school for those who don't like indoor day schools. She's a distant cousin of his, and there are other distant cousins in other cities. It's a chain they're running, a human chain. And if there's time, I have a 5-line poem. It's called Judgment Day. We're not all alone. There are other planets with reasonably intelligent life. We communicate, we visit, we intermarry. Soon we construct one giant planet and live on it together. And then we're all alone.
First poem is called Epiphany at the Stove. Standing at the stove at midnight, butt naked, cooking turkey bacon. These were the factors that led to my late night epiphany that there is something perfect, symbiotically perfect and deeply satisfying about cooking turkey bacon, butt naked, at midnight. Like this single action, this imperfect practice is the closest approximation of what life actually means. Jesus had his in the wilderness, Moses on a mountain, but I was having mine here, while the moon swam in the sky, preparing pan-fried turkey strips while I was butt naked. So I stared into that sizzling, steaming, bubbling pan of man's regret, questioning any evidence of my relevance and wondering if it represents bad decisions made at the latest hour. Am I the hand managing the fire, or am I the slab of fat in that burning pan? What does it all mean, I whispered at those humming animal flaps, as that crackling fat spoke back in tongues the fire alarm, as if sensing our senseless direction, chimed in. So there I was, only a few minutes past the midnight hour, only somewhat turning my burning late-night snack with one hand, only partially spinning a towel to hush the alarm with the other, and me completely naked. Minutes later, I would sit cross-legged on my hardwood floor, a plate of blackened bacon on my lap. I sat and tried to write. I tried to recite the lesson I learned that night. What would this poem bring to the world? Why did this poem have to be? And I could only think of one thing: to show the awesome yet subtle, quiet yet unrelenting, and yes, often gloriously hilarious power of imagery. It's called Why Are You Not Dead Yet, Grandma? With an age-wrinkled hand, she plants it here on my cheek and speaks softly, saying, because there's still so much I have to teach little shits like you. Inside jacket. On the inside of books, you can look and see the author bio with a pretty picture of said author, acting rather authorly, possibly staring off into the distance wearing a cardigan, and there are some who manage both. But you see, me, I want on the inside sleeve of my first book an artist's rendition of me, or better yet, my son's rendition of me. A stick figure with a bald head and a beard scratched in with purple crayon. And below it would read their bio, Alcee Leyva, he knows stuff. So that when these people close my book in anger asking, who is this jackass anyway? They can turn to my picture and read my bio and know. She says she loves it there. So one night, as they lie front to back in bed, she pushes her shoulders squarely against his chest and listens to the arithmetic of his inner workings, to the clockwork of his heart gears, to the hiss of his lungs listlessly whispering his secrets, to the sun cooling its fire on the horizon of his spinal cord and resurfacing as the moon. She pushes herself deeper, feeling the need to believe why the birds perching along his ribcage sing so dutifully, or how beautifully sits the sad architecture of his tongue, a table of wet craft where his words are birthed and sculpted. She pushes herself deeper and deeper still, until she is thin enough to move through his skin, until she can write her name on the short edge of a pin, invisible yet home, whole and yet surrounded by the flesh and sinews of a man she didn't know at birth. But it's worth not knowing It's worth growing within because living without was coming as second nature, nurturing, pleasuring, furthering, entering. She has left her clothes behind. She is naked inside of his skin. Praising the Creator, for home is a temple. Home is the only place where her prayers could be answered. This is home, she whispers, and he stirs.
Entitled Keeping Spirit. I will keep the slant of my grandpa's eyes as he tells me not to come to his part of town where the streets are brown and alive, where wind returned all things home on the ivory coast of Africa, dressed like an American. Take that foolery out of your hair, tie that pine around your waist, wear the clothes of your grandmother, feel the closeness of her fingertips, and get into that kitchen. I will not forget the dark swoops of my abuelito's loose curls before they locked together at the nape of his neck, his café con leche that dripped like countless metaphors on the tongue, his toasted jamon con queso sandwiches filling stomachs that are hungry for a home that we will never know. The small spot on the bed he lays on to sleep because of the years of brown, smelly old newspapers that overflow tracing the space of his room. It makes him feel less lonely to have a lifetime of words surrounding him, keeping him warm like old lovers. He yells at Castro through a small 50s-style TV that sits on top of a heaping pile of unforgotten memories, using a string of Spanish and Creole, some Catholic voodoo professions of love. I remember the brown eyes of my small brown mother, how she likes to live large but will always send money back home. She embarrasses your new bosoms of lies with her truth. I'll keep her poetic hips. Spirit, ancestry, revolutionary bloodlines, I will hold on to the complexities of my nature. I will not forget my tall, dark father, who can't ever be alone. So he ends up confiding in me a trust that I will never tell his newest wife about his true love mistresses, or tell how questioning the familiar glint in every brown child's eyes has become my habit. He knows he is broken, and everyone says we look just alike. Entitled Tears for the Living. I am HIV positive, but I love my nephew, not AIDS, but you'll confuse them anyway. I am positive, no one cares. So this shouldn't come as a surprise. Don't know who I got it from. Don't know who I'll give it to. Don't gasp, sit still, because no one cries tears for those who can still take the blame. I am HIV positive, but I used to have a food allergy that kept me from joining the Marines. With nothing but time on my hands, right now I'd rather die to have someone cry than stand and be ripped apart. I have ripped myself apart and now even my cells don't like me. I am HIV positive, but I'm not Magic Johnson. I'm sorry. I'm your next door neighbor. I might die quicker. All I've got is God keeping me sane enough to take it, fake it, spread it. There are advancements in medicine, they say, but science never got along with love. Statistics gave birth to me slick and hopeless, but you're the only one counting. I don't blame anyone. I'm your brother. Cry for me. Cry for me. Cry for me. I'm HIV positive. But this is not your regular programming. I'm here close enough to touch. Reach out for this taut skin and feel death beneath your fingertips. Tears are never meant for the living. But what's your definition of living?
I am going to read one or two pages from a fairy tale that I had published in the Fairy Tale Review recently. And it is called Pelo Bueno, Good Hair. It was unclear when it was decided or by whom that Ariana's hair would become the family talisman, the source of their good luck and abundance, and the main attraction of family gatherings. Christmas, New Year's Day, El Día de los Reyes, and her birthday became days that her hair was brought out for the entire family to see, touch, and smell for good luck. Her father's three sisters would cross themselves and say a prayer before stepping under her hair and walking through it as if it were a cascade of holy water. They came to her hair as pilgrims go to Lourdes with prayers and petitions and faith. On New Year's Day, they would write their hopes for the new year on small pieces of paper and pin them to the inside of her hair. The hair was an exaggerated perfection of the Pelo Bueno title bestowed by the family on all hair long and straight. By the time she was 16, it hung past the bottom of her calves, the dark black edges brushing lightly against the tops of her ankles, and it had become the favorite grandchild. It was of course understood and often mourned out loud that curly hair of any kind was pelo malo. The passion with which these titles were given to each newborn tiny head as it sprouted hair lent them the authority of truth. which had the unfortunate consequence of making each child feel as good or as bad as his or her hair was proclaimed. It was natural then that Ariana was led to believe she was a saint. Her female cousins secretly whispered stories to each other about how she was a witch and could be seen howling at the moon or working spells on the neighbors. The oldest would always repeat, "It must be some kind of brujeria. I mean, no one in the family has that kind of hair." Her hair was so black it looked like India ink running down her bare arms, and so shiny it reflected images like a mirror. She was neither the prettiest nor the smartest of her cousins or siblings. The oldest cousin was by far the best cook, but everything Ariana ever did was done under the veil of her pelo bueno, and so it was best. What no one knew was the deal her mother had made with the old man in the rainforest. When Ariana was born, the old man had come in the night and tried to steal her away. He said plainly to the mother, "She is no great beauty. She will have a hard life. Just let me take her. I need a new assistant." Her mother had cried so hard and furiously that her tears filled the room and spilled out into the street, creating a stream that ran the length of the entire town. The old man was powerless before such emotion. "Very well. Keep her for a time. To remind you that she belongs to me, I will give her the most beautiful hair this town has ever seen. All who seek it shall find magic in it. All who wish through it will have their wishes come true. There's only one rule. She must never marry. She will stay a young girl forever, and when you have died, she will be mine. If she marries, I will come and claim her, and she will die a slave." The mother only heard that he would let her live and agreed. On her 16th birthday, Ariana's mother woke her up extra early and gently rubbed the top of her head as she looked into her eyes. "Ay, Ariana, the time has come. You are a woman now, and, well, you must go out and do what women do. I hope it makes you at least a little bit happy." On that day, her hair was combed out and scented, and small butterfly clips and flowers were placed throughout it. When her hair was done, her mother applied lipstick and blush to her face and gave her a dress that was tighter than any she had been allowed to wear before. She had a thin, childish figure which, after years of puberty, still showed no signs of becoming that of a woman. Her face was long and square, with a simple, vacant look carved out from so much life lived under the false importance of her hair. By then, her hair had reached the soles of her feet, and to avoid stepping on it, she had to walk as if she were gliding to create a light breeze, and slightly lift it up and away as her feet barely touched the ground. This way of walking gave the illusion of being graceful, which, when her hair was up in braids, she was not.
Two poems from a manuscript called Tower and Crater. That's about the Twin Towers and Mount St. Helens volcano. Donate ownership. Burlington Northern Railroad once owned the crater of Mount St. Helens volcano. In 1982, the chairman and CEO wrote to President Reagan, "We are pleased to advise you of our intention to donate our ownership in the crater and the land adjoining Spirit Lake. Part of the checkerboard of public and private, there's still land trading. Clear-cut old-growth trees exchanged for preserving other acres. Rights to drill or spill. This parcel shall perish for that one. Random pandemonium. We plant more than we cut," said the foreman. The new tower, named Freedom, belongs to developers and feds in exchange for our right to shop, pay taxes, go to war, and remain flagrant targets. We build more than we plant, said the foreman. The first surges rushed down the volcano's northern flank at 80 miles per hour. Smith Creek, Pine Creek, Muddy River, and the South Fork of the Toutle River. Mud lahars buried cars, mailboxes, farms, roads. Destroyed 16 bridges, 1,100 miles of state roads. Old-growth Douglas fir, western red cedar, western hemlock, white pine, and noble fir ascended 2,000 feet above the lake and were eradicated quickly. They found bones a few blocks from the Twin Towers more than 10 years after the attack, between the cracks as they demolished old scaffolding. For multi-million-dollar condos, they excavated a skull, a tibia, and what might have been a jaw. Whose brother or mother? You mourn, we own, said the foreman. Yeti in Portland. Yeti slinks through the Pacific Northwest, comes out of the woods in the rain, and crosses the Willamette, wears a Columbia Gore-Tex pullover, rides a hybrid bike in all weather, but cannot become a vegan. He knows caves and mud lahars, frolics in the tephra of early eruptions, and munches on lupine, knocks away standing dead, takes camouflage in organic debris. No wonder his breath reeks. He walks into the Southeast Portland bar as a lesbian folk trio stands for their encore. Yeti needs a drink. He loves Mount Hood and St. Helens. He's a tall stranger, also known as Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and mistaken for Chewbacca. Yeti's hands are in proportion to his feet. He puts down his backpack and a woman asks him to remove it. She looks like a poet. There are no seats. He's claustrophobic and the applause hurts his ears. He wants beer, but orders a Stumptown coffee. And this one is totally unrelated to those. He takes her in your arms. Value what does not exist. Mash up lips, eyes close, extract her exactly for your pleasure. Use confusion, jingle. Peruse thrills the livelong day. Displace your face through composites. You take him in her arms. He makes doors from cars. They fiddle with knobs, fuss with alarms, mud wrestle in dry grass, jiggle. Something goes right. She makes us a charm alarm. Through omission, it's never what you thought. She takes him in your arms. Thank you.
So tonight I will be reading as well as performing Virtuous Woman, which is a piece that I've written, and it's published in Our Story, Ourself, the Embodiment of Women's Learning and Literacy. I knew there was more to life than Crown Heights, Brooklyn. A worldview perspective can only be shaped by the experiences and opportunities in which it is exposed to. In the 10th grade, I made a decision to go away to college and broaden my horizons. I was the first one in my immediate family to go to college. At first, I didn't receive support from my family because this was something that was new to all of us. My faith and vision for a better future for myself were my motivation to get me through the next 4 years. Halfway through the finish line, however, I came to a point where I felt like I couldn't go on. The demands of the academic workload, being a minority in a predominantly white university, and discovering who I was too much at times, too much to bear. While working all night on a project for school, I just broke out in tears. I said to myself, I don't know if I could do this. I considered dropping out of school, but inside I knew this was not the answer for me. I felt the peace as the words to the poem Virtuous Woman came to me. And as I penned these words, I felt like I wasn't only writing this poem for me, but for others who needed to know that they can beat the odds and rise above the negative statistics placed on them. So today I use this poem for student success and retention. You are truly a virtuous woman. You hold your head up high with pride, but yet you don't let it reside to consume you into a pretentious display of pretending to be someone, anyone but yourself. You don't crave the limelight, seeking to be the center of attention while mentioning the new Chanel bag that you own. No, you remain humble, and because of that, you will be exalted. For who you are and all that you do, a tribute is made out to you. A virtuous woman, fearfully and wonderfully made. Now, statistics says that you should be running wild, having your second child, and popping pills to kill the stress that overflows from your mind. A dropout from school to be everyone else's fool. To drop out of the race to reach the highest goal that you can make. No, you have a dream, a vision that only you can embrace, and you diligently work hard to contribute to the human race. Yes, there are times when you feel like giving up, letting go, and giving in. At times when you just can't see just how you're gonna make it, and you wanna cry, and sometimes you do. The pores on your cheeks like little buckets absorb the salty waters that trickle down your face. Nevertheless, you stay strong because you know where your strength comes from. And you refuse to give up, refuse to give in, and refuse to let go. Because even though the stereotypes and statistics of you might be expected, it will not and it shall not be accepted, because you are truly indeed a virtuous woman, fearfully and wonderfully made.
I entitled this The Coroner of a Soul. I dedicate this to a cousin of mine who passed. So this is for my cousin Chris. If I could peel back the layers of flesh, muscle, sheets of skin, feelings, thoughts, and peer into your center, I believe I'd find the colors of you blue and moody, the color of fog, steely gray, the color of battleships and what they call storm blue. If I could delve into the center of your melancholia that rode you in the night like some impenitent hag, like some merciless haint lacking manners or couth, somewhere between, I think I could transcribe your sad music into the sheet music of your story. The ending composed like a bad refrain or a poorly constructed chorus, it became epitaph, and when rewritten became elegy, elegant and distinctive. You've become a noun, passive and spoken of in careful past participle phrasings. And if death be the cessation and yet a beginning, then you've returned to the elements, the graceful essence of whence you came. Dark matters of star currents, supernovas, and planets will be born in recognition of your life here among us. And if only I could peel back the layers without anger, regret, remorse, and see to the center of you, I'd see that you are radiant, ascendant, blinding, like the coroner of a soul. This other one, I actually decided to switch at the last moment. It's short, and this is about the resilience of the spirit. I don't know where it came from, but it's called Deliverance, and it's about an incarcerated man and what he will face inevitably when he comes out. Deliverance. Amidst synthetic sunshine and hermetically sealed dreams, he paces within a 6x8 cell to the metronome of days. He is a discordant instrument strummed out of tune, and the chorus of failed aspirations sings funeral rites in his ears. The caged bird sings to night stars and channels hymns to the cardinal points of the universe. The mocking heavens lie beyond the narrow shaft of light. Stingy windows offer him solace, even if freedom will come 17 years hence. Regret is the malady, past not taken the diagnosis. He hears a tug and pull beyond the ear's intelligence, a calling from the towering void and supreme architect of sound, time, space. He bides his time, chiseling minutes onto prison walls, hieroglyph evidence that he still exists. And upon Freedom Day, with his soul aflame, how he will be reborn. Thank you.
First poem I want to read to you was written in response to Theodore Roethke's line, "I know a woman lovely in her bones." My bone of contention with Roethke. I know a woman lovely, and I mean lovely, in her flesh. It hangs on her deep like snow on a January pine, and in places she seems more liquid than solid. Think axle deep mud, and Lord, how I love to sink in those ruts, sending ripples of movement in every direction while I hang on, riding the waves, and she with her knees and toes pointing at the saints, arms around me like she's crawling through the air, carrying me somewhere better than fine. Theodora, you can sing your praises of your woman's fine bones, but I'll be listening for the melody of corduroys stretched tightly across my love's thick thighs, a lullaby that sets me to dreaming about taking a dip in her singing flesh. There will be time enough spent with bones and dust, but until then, let me drown smothered in my good mate's flesh. I grew up in a really, well, not a really dysfunctional household, but it wasn't normal. And this is a poem about it. It's called Skeletons. As a kid, I always found it harsh when my mother claimed that if given the chance to live her life over, she would become a cloistered nun. My father, an old dog, loved to roll in life's dirt. One night after I graduated from high school, my bags packed for college, he swayed up to me, a fresh Manhattan, sweating and sloshing in his hand. He offered me slurred advice. "Kid, you know, if I could do it all over again, I'd be an effing pimp." After returning from my semester abroad, I handed out souvenirs. I gave my mom water from Lourdes, a rosary blessed by the Pope, and a cheap t-shirt. I brought my dad brandy from Spain, a Hofbrauhaus half-liter Stein, and second-hand accounts of his World War II pig alley haunts. My mother enjoyed her gifts, especially her John Paul II t-shirt. He stood arms raised and spread, glowing in black and white. That it was 2 sizes too large didn't matter to her. She wore it often and took to saying again and again, "I can't believe how happy the Pope looks." My father, who believed only to a certain point, finally broke one night during our family meal. To her constant refrain, he shot back, "For Christ's sake, Stella, I'd be ecstatic too if I had a tit in each hand." My mother looked down. The Pope looked up, smiling, her breasts resting in his open palms. She said nothing. I brayed and snorted, laughing along with my bent and breathless dad. A few days later, the shirt appeared hanging neatly in the corner of my closet. I didn't wear it much, and never in my mother's presence.
I will be sharing a couple of my poems. The Wanderer. Anger, depression, loneliness, confusion. A game of push and pull, an endless argument. The words that can't be taken back, but she can't forget them. She tries and tries. She cries and cries. Days turn into nights. Nights pass by so fast, and then it's another day. But is it really a brand new day? A new start with hope? She wonders. She searches within. But it's just so hard. What if there isn't anyone better? What if he is the one? What if this is all her fault? Maybe she can do better tomorrow? Maybe, just maybe it won't hurt as much next time. Next time. Isn't it supposed to be better? But will it really be a better day? He loves her, he says. She loves him too. So much that it hurts every time she breathes. That's how true love is supposed to feel, Mama says. But then why does it feel like a prison? A prison cell of love. So dark, so empty, so hollow every single day. The same touch isn't the same anymore. Not even the kisses. But it's love, the heart says. What really is then love? She wonders and hopes. She hopes to conquer it all someday. This next poem I just wrote yesterday. I will share it with y'all. My intuition. A woman's intuition. The heart, the mind, push it all away. Just follow the gut feeling. That's what they tell me. Yes, I am a woman. I can feel, I can tell. I have intuition. The voice whispering in my head, the one that keeps on singing. It keeps on crying and mourning. Melody. It's so fragile, just like me. But I feel dead, trapped within this meaningless shadow of life. I wish my heart was a hollow space, because I don't ever listen. I don't care. I jump right in every time, every moment, every single day of my life. I wear my dreadful heart on my sleeve. They know. That's why they steal it right away. I don't know why, but I let them. I let them into my heart. I share my stories, my shame, my glories, all. I let it all out, just to walk down the same lane of mistakes all over again. Same pain, same heart. I keep on bleeding. I keep on drowning deep within the ocean. I wish to be saved, but no. As I kneel down, broken, beaten, shattered like million pieces of a beautiful mirror, I can't see myself anymore. I am lost. I am reflectionless. I become invisible within the pressure tightly pressed onto me. It's swallowing me. It's taking me away. I don't even recognize myself. And it's all because I didn't listen. I didn't care. My intuition? She guides me. She's the mother in my life. She wants to keep me sane, but she fails. Because I failed her. Am I really a woman? Am I anything at all? I wonder. I would ask my intuition. But she's nowhere to be found. She's lost and gone just like me. So I'm here, searching for me and for my intuition. This will be my last piece. It's titled Undefined. Light, dim, bright, flickering through the speed, passing me by in a rhythm, a song that we all hear but try to ignore, just like the homeless mother and child in a moving train. Moving train? Do you ever stop and wonder why we keep moving in such a rush? Are we moving towards our destinations? A destination that would help us survive? Maybe a better job, a safer home, a bigger paycheck, a symbol of power and prosperity. We all want that. Regardless of our gender, regardless of our race, class, or sexuality, whether I get on this train ride of life from the South Bronx or the east side of Manhattan, seems so insignificant, at least to me. As I sit here and think, my mind wonders. Who am I? Who are you? Who are we? Is there any one answer? If not, then why are we labeled so quickly? Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, men, women, straight, bi, the list never ends. But no, they can't define who I am. I am me. I am you. I am the untamed wave of Hudson River. I am the glistening sunshine on the Freedom Towers. I am the gray snow by the street of Manhattan. If you look for me, you will see. I am everywhere. I can't be defined or categorized. I am undefined. Always am, and always will be. Thank you.
I'm going to read a few sonnets that I wrote pretty recently. The first one is for anyone, dedicated to anyone who's tired of the cold weather when it's supposed to be warm by now. Let's see, there are a few. And it's a new form that I invented called the Dickens sonnet. It's a sonnet in the form of Emily Dickinson. So you can imagine every word on this page is capitalized and there are dashes all over the place. It was inspired by a poem by Charles Simic called Dear Spring. I used the same title, Dear Spring. You promised, your past due. I've seen your beginning. You're pushing the ground. An understudy, wanting to star. Wasn't that you in the cemetery mounting a mound? I'm ready to collect at least one crocus. I'd overlook your neglect if you deign an appearance. So twinkle your eyes and make your arrival. You tease, show more skin. Really, snow in early April? You swollen belly bully, you delinquent, begin. When will you bear it all? Now be brave. It's unbearable, this waiting since the fall. Miss, behave. This poem is also a sort of Dickinson-inspired poem, and it's about working out in the gym doing spin class. It's called Spinning. Wheels turning, worlds a-whirling, bikes go, a boy or a girling, pedal to the metal, pedals fall, spring ends once and for all. Summer grind, don't mind the sun, biking in the gym is fun, going nowhere but going there fast, knowing none of us will last. Spinning round glows the globe, spinning tires, tired, God knows. Rounding the sun, rotating all the while, ride the merry-go-round, God's giant dial. This is a sonnet called Rescued. We faced autumn's fall, laughed as leaves rafted lakes, beheld fists as they balled, We allowed man's mistakes. We survived icy waters, waded past cruel words, dove into being daughters. We sailed east of misdeeds. We reveled in silence, rocked and rolled tunes, flaunted in difference. We mocked the dawn's moon. The moon the sun was robbing. Why are you silently sobbing? I have two more sonnets. They sort of go together. The first one's called Shot. Coat racks, empty metal curves beckon, hooked on bare walls, paint coat white. Cellophane tapes, survivors circle, a photo shoot gone by's ironic smile. Trying to iron it out, war-weary, bleary-eyed fighters wear themselves out instead. They're just shot. Red-dyed albumum, bloodshot eyes afire. They're in the trenches, making that last-ditch effort, then swearing off the stuff again. Won't ever take another shot down the path of no return. There's no deposit, return, or recovery, or maybe there is one last shot at sobriety. And this last piece kind of goes with the other. It's a sonnet called Detox. Visitor, ring the bell of the locked ward, then get buzzed in to tell on addiction. You know the danger, the double-edged sword that stabs just as you trust for protection. Share past nightmares, still vivid in their truth. The air smells sour, the floor is sticky. It's possible to change, you're living proof. Alone, though, you can't keep sobriety. Tell your story to the faces, young and old, attentive, blank, or silently crying. Marvel as a sky blue blanket unfolds that might just save a single soul from dying. Thank you so much for coming, they will say, but you thank them instead for one more day.
I'll start with the old one. It's actually in an anthology called Ain't I a Woman, edited by Leona Linthwaite. It's called Love Letter. Dear Samson, I put your hair in a jar by the pear tree near the well. I've been thinking over what I've done, and I still don't think God gave you all that strength for you to kill my people. Love, Delilah. The next one comes from the cold that we just went through. And I am 69 years old, March 18th. I don't ever remember a winter like this one. So I'll be writing about this winter for a while. Cold blew across us. Polar bears drowning by north. We have warmed the earth. A sparrow hops there. Earth was frozen under them. Tossed crumbs revive hearts. Haiku to the earth. Daffodils arise. The park covered by snow changes itself now.